Hello everybody, Calamity here, and I am making this short video just to share some first impressions of the brand new character that just came into Genshin's new update. It's Escoffier? I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her name, I kind of forgot. But anyways, she specializes in freeze teams, so those of you that have been, favoring the freeze reaction for a long time and have been saddened by it not getting a lot of love, well, this character aims to fix that, and she actually adds a lot of love to freeze teams in general, which is really nice. But first, let me go over her talents real fast. So she is an off-field DPS, so she's very easy to play. You're, again, just like any off-field DPS, you're not really gonna invest into her normal attacks if they're whatever. They look cool, but you're not gonna use them. Now her elemental skill, also very easy. You just tap it, and then it does its thing. You don't have to worry about it. It does AoE cryo damage, and it will follow your current active character and continue to deal cryo damage. So very, don't turn off brain, press button, move to next character. Very easy, very simple, and we like that. And then you can see the damage multipliers here. They're okay, right? Nothing crazy, nothing like insane. And she does do the whole Uja Numia stuff. I think, yeah, she does do Uja. So that's not really something we concern ourselves with as much these days, but nice to know, I guess. And last but not least, her burst is also very straightforward. You press it, she does a big AoE cryo damage, and she will restore HP to all nearby characters based on her attack. So you can see here, this one actually does a lot of damage. You can see that multiplier is actually huge. We'll also do like a combat showcase just so you can see her in action real fast. And then we can see the healing. Not the best. It's 275% of her attack plus a base of around 2000, which is okay, right? It's something to write home about, but I would say she's mostly fine as your solo healer if you have like a shielder, like for example Layla on the team or something, because then that would be enough to keep you sustained for the most part. And it only has an energy cost of 60, way cheaper than 70 or 80, so you don't have to invest too heavily on some energy recharge for her. Some is always nice, but we don't have to go like ham on energy recharge like other characters. Next up is her talents are all pretty easy to explain, and I love this. But basically, when you use her burst, it will continue to heal the active character based off her attack. This one doesn't have as high of a scaling as her burst does, so this is very minimal healing. So you add the healing from this and her burst, she is I would say, below average sustainer, or at least healer, compared to other characters that are more tailor-made for it, but that's fine, right? Because she's providing tons of buffs and damage to the team already. And then next up is her Chevreuse-inspired talent, where depending on how much Hydra or Cryo characters are on the team, she will shred nearby opponents' resistances with her elemental skill or her burst. But then we look at the numbers here, and it takes like a sudden jump, and I had to like double check that I wasn't misreading it or something. But it goes from 5% with one character, so you already have that with her. Add another character, 10, 15, and then it jumps all the way up to 55 if your whole team is nothing but Cryo or Hydra. I took a second to like look at that to make sure that is a huge resistance shred. I believe that is one of the single most biggest instances of a resistance shred in the game. But I feel like if you go for the maximum of 3, you're still gonna be fine if your 4th character is an Animo character, so like Kazuha or Venti, for example. Because they still have a 40% resistance shred, which would still equal to 55%, assuming you're using Veridicent Veneer, of course. So you still, equalize it. And if you're using Kazuha, for example, he also buffs elemental damage with his burst. So that's like, it kind of offsets it. So don't feel like you have to use Hydra or Cryo. It's a nice, bonus, but she can definitely get away with it. Shilinin, also another character you can definitely use in your team that will make up for the resistance shred. So if you don't feel like you have to be like one or the other, I do feel like Kazuha can even out this talent. And then last but not least, her last talent, we all saw this in the live stream. Basically, if you do the hold version of her skill, and then you hit the pot a bunch with elemental attacks, it'll make a random food based on the ingredients, and you can't just sit there and farm food forever. It does have a limit. I don't know what the limit is because I don't have the character, and the food making part of her kit does not work in the trial, unfortunately. I tried it. I hit it with a bunch of elemental attacks. It filled up the bar, and then it just reset, and I didn't get any food. So you have a number of dishes you can make. I don't know how much it is, and then it just resets at a certain time. So that's pretty much that's it, and it makes sense, right? But another thing that I wanted to point out is her weapon is phenomenal for what it does. First of all, it gives her a bunch of crit damage for free, so you can focus on like crit rate and stuff like that. But this one is good for a lot of polearm characters. Again, Chevreuse comes to mind, Mika comes to mind, because not only does it increase their attack by a little bit, it also will give a buff to your entire team. So let's quickly go over this effect. So straight up, 12% attack increase. And then your off-field damage is increased by another 12%. Then, if the character does any healing, the equipping character and the characters that have been healed will obtain the Sweet Echoes effect, which will increase their attack by 32% for 3 seconds. So find any sort of global healer that can use a polearm, and you're giving a free 32% buff for 3. That 3 seconds is pretty short, to be fair. So you have a short window to do your big damage. But that's still a hefty buff. And remember, we can stack this with Noblesse Oblige. So that's actually a 52% increase in attack. So you're going to have a big like buff. Not to mention, we can also stack this with Tales of Dragon Slayers and other attack buffs. But, you know, let's just keep it simple. Let's just look at the weapons buff and look at it and just be like, all right, as soon as you activate this, as soon as you activate her healing, swap to your main DPS, do your big source of damage. Like, for example, Ayaka's Burst. That would be the perfect time to cast it right after using her burst as well. And she is equipped with it looks like they gave her the golden shoot because it does look like most of the damage does come from her elemental skill. But I guess she does have some other options you could give her as well. Like maybe, I mean, you could also give her Noblesse Oblige if you just want to focus on support. Tenacity of the Millilith as well, since she is doing off-field skill damage. So that's another option. If you wanted to be more on the support side, this is definitely more on the damage side, of course. So after all that is being said, like, what do I think about the character? Oh wait, first let's do the combat showcase, and then I'll talk about the characters some more. So yeah, here's the team that you're given in the trial. I guess Fremine is the driver, Mika is our healer, Xingqiu for Hydro. So let's go ahead and start. I do think Mika's a weird choice. Go ahead and get the freezes going, and look at the numbers, right? They're pretty good. There's her burst. Right? They're okay considering we're using 4-star characters. Imagine this with like a Ganyu, Ayaka, Ricely, right? Do it again. Like, the numbers are not bad. Right? Like, very easy to play. Not much to really explain. You use her skill, you use her burst. That's it. That's her whole rotation, and it's pretty straightforward. And we like that it's straightforward, or at least most of us do, right? I think I was in the trial for too long because it actually kicked me out there for a second. But anyways, going back to the character, her design, her kit, her future-proofness. What do I think about it? Initial reactions are that she's a great character because she's bringing life to a niche freeze that was otherwise ignored for several years in Genshin's lifespan. So that's a really good thing. Just like what Chevreuse did for overloaded teams and what Auroron did for electrocharge teams, etc. That's what she's doing here. She's basically a 5-star version of those characters, since she brings a lot more damage herself and a little bit of healing, and, you know, a lot of debuffs for freeze. And it's already been stated in the live stream that you don't actually have to freeze the bosses to get the effects of her resistance shredding. So as long as you're doing the reaction, you're going to get the increased damage. This is why I kind of wish they would have given us like an easy boss to fight in her trial, just so we could see like, okay, here's the damage against a monster that you can't freeze, because we were able to freeze basically everything in her trial. Now, obviously, you know, if you're not new to Genshin or Hoyoverse games in general, they do a lot to try to sell these characters to you. Like right now, if you look in the Spiral Abyss, floor 12, second half, there is a buff that is tailor-made for her, where, you know, cryo characters are getting a huge elemental skill buff. And guess what? She's one of the best characters for that buff now, and she's gonna have even bigger numbers, so it's gonna feel really good to have her or to use her in Spiral Abyss right now. And not only that, but there's a bunch of electro shields, and cryo is really great at destroying electro shields. So yeah, it's gonna feel really good. Imaginarium Theater, same thing, right? They also have cryo, hydro, and geo are the 3 elements right now, and again, there's also like buffs to freeze in the Imaginarium Theater, so that's also gonna feel really, really good. But who's to say like how this is gonna feel 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months from now? Like, is she still gonna be a good character? And my honest opinion is, I think so, yeah, actually, because we are gonna be going to the Cryo Nation. I don't know when exactly, but you know, soon. And I feel like with the Cryo Archon, which, you know, whenever she comes out, and whatever Cryo characters are in the Cryo Nation, like, I know not everyone's going to be Cryo just because we're in the Cryo Nation, but like, she will have a lot of synergy with future characters, especially if their niche is doing freeze stuff. So she definitely seems like that character you should have if you want to if you want to invest in freeze teams. So definitely worth picking up, just like Chevreuse is if you want to do Overloaded, just like Auroron is if you want to do Electrocharge. The only downside is, like the previous 2 characters I mentioned, you can C6 them and a lot of their damage comes from it. While C6ing a 5-star character, as you know, not exactly in everyone's budget. I do gotta say though that just looking at her C1, this makes it so that if you go hard on Cryo and Hydro character teams, like only that with no Shilinen, no Kazuha, you do get a huge damage buff, and this is going to be really good for bosses, because that's where characters like Kazuha don't really matter. You don't really care about the grouping that much for bosses and single target situations and stuff like that. But we can see here, big damage boost to the team. Crit damage for Cryo is increased by 60% for 15 seconds after she uses her skill or burst. That is incredible amounts of damage increase. And then, you know, like, without even looking at the rest of her talents or her constellations, you already know, like, they're just going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. And then +3 to her skill is going to be more damage for her. Like, this one gives her more healing. And then this one, I'm going to guess, just makes her a main DPS. There's just, like, so much damage. But just the C1 already giving her a huge boost in single target for bosses. So I do think she's a solid character. And again, if you do want to invest in freeze teams, that's like your favorite reaction in the game, definitely consider. She's definitely not replacing anybody, right? And I think she's going to have a lot of character, like, team variety, especially with more and more characters coming out. And hopefully Hoyoverse is bringing out this character because they, you know, in the future, they plan to bring out lots of other cryo DPS characters. I know Skirk is a popular one. I don't even know if she's cryo, but if she ends up being one, you can bet she's going to be really good with Escoffier over here for the freeze team setups. I mean, and I already mentioned Ayaka, Ganyu, and Ricely being really well paired with them. So lots and lots of characters to try out. You know, if you are someone that misses using cryo DPS as your main, Escoffier is definitely going to be that character for you. But enough repeating. Thank you guys so much for watching on my short little analysis of this character. Again, this is just a first impression. Nothing is set in stone. We got to let the community cook a little bit. No pun intended with our chef here. To see if she really is that great, you know, but I just got to say on first impression, easy to play, solid character. I'd pull for her if I had the gems to, but, you know, Hoyoverse games and not being greedy with premium currency, you know, name a more iconic duo. Anywho, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like this sort of analysis and this kind of content, please feel free to subscribe and like the video, and I'll make more. And with that being said, I'll see you all in the next one.